I'm Stella and welcome to 30 Books. And today we have wedding fever because that's where I am. Well, that didn't last long, did it? Hi, I'm Stella and welcome to 30 Books. And I had a wedding on the weekend and I thought, wouldn't it be a great idea to talk about a couple of Australian books that feature weddings as part of their major plot line. And it was such a fantastic atmosphere on the day. Unfortunately, that fantastic atmosphere also made it impossible for me to be heard above the music, and I thought it would just be too annoying for people. So this is take 2 of 30 Books Goes to a Wedding. So 3 books for you today, 2 fiction, 1 non-fiction. I'm going to start off with a fiction book, literary non-fiction, Pursuing Love and Death, Heather Taylor Johnson. Now this is about the Smith family who are heading off to Adelaide to attend sister Luna's wedding. So you've got family matriarch Velma and her ex-husband Graham and their 2 children, son Ginsberg, who is gay but is married to a woman and is not a closeted homosexual either. He is out, but he is in love with a woman. And then Luna, who is in her mid-30s and of course is thinking about having children, but what does that mean? She owns a restaurant and she starts investigating as well in her own mind leading up to the marriage. She's wondering why her parents' marriage failed. And then we have Graham, who has his own secret. I don't want to give away any plot spoilers in this one. And Velma, who is convinced she is still in love with Graham, even though she had left him, I think, almost 27 years previously. This book is in 3rd person, but each person within the novel gets a chapter or it's seen from their point of view. And there's also a brother-in-law or an uncle. I feel like I want to call him Smitty, but that might be, might be Duncan. Smitty is Graham's nickname. And Smitty, there's stuff happening in his life as well. So this is about the misunderstandings that we have. So it's constantly this family awkwardly reaching out to each other but then retreating because they think that the other person isn't interested in them. I would call this a satire. I thought it was really funny. I devoured this book. I thought it was also really beautiful, really interesting, great characterizations, although I am a little bit cross with Heather Taylor Johnson because I thought she treated one of the characters very unfairly. So I'm still seething over that. And what I also loved about this book, it is a bit of a love song to the city of Adelaide, and I think it's a city that gets forgotten, especially if you're in Melbourne and Sydney and we're kind of up ourselves and you might think Adelaide's really boring, but it's a lovely city. So that is Pursuing Love and Death by Heather Taylor Johnson. And now my second book is a memoir, and it is Ghost Wife by Michelle Dickonowski. Now, Michelle, I hope I pronounced your surname correctly. This is Michelle's story, and it is 2005. She's in Australia, and she's fallen in love with an American woman, and they want to get married. And as we know, there was no marriage equality at that time in Australia. And in fact, 2004, the marriage laws were actually changed very specifically to say that marriage was strictly between a man and a woman. And there was also no marriage equality in America. So they decided to go to Canada to get married. But what does that actually mean? And it sounds so simple, but it's very complicated. She charts the story of her coming out and the way that people, especially her family, were almost dismissive toward her. And there's something very frightening about someone who wants to marry someone of the same sex. So, and it really highlighted to me as a straight person, even though, you know, I voted yes, of course, but because I'm not married myself, but I'm straight, so I'm privileged, so I've always taken, you know, marriage for granted. I've never looked at the way that marriage can actually define who you are, and that as a citizen, and that it is about human rights. So I'm just going to read a small piece here. So she writes about not being able to get married legally in Australia. One of the things that bothered me most about the situation was the invisibility of our predicament. The more difficult a government makes it to record our relationships, the easier it becomes for people to say now and in the future that these relationships don't or didn't exist. The more invisible you make something, the harder it is to prove that it matters. So much queer history has been lost, and so much is disputed. So much is concealed behind tales of spinster aunts, playboy bachelors, and lifelong friendships. We inherit a history of meaningful silences and notable absences, and I was sick of it. Well, Michelle, I hope you are silent no more. And I would encourage so many people who love a bit of romance and also memoir, and with a bit of history in the book as well, to get this book. I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much, Michelle. Now, the beautiful thing about this book as well, the wedding I went to on Saturday was actually my first same-sex wedding. It was my nephew's wedding, and him and his fiance, and now his husband. So I thought it was beautiful and very fitting. And now my third book is a genre fiction, romance, written by probably one of Australia's most famous genre romance writers, Anne Gracie. Now, I haven't read this book, I haven't had time, but I thought, you know, I saw this in the library and I thought, how can I not talk about this on 30 books? And I'll read the blurb at the back. Heiress with a secret, hero with a past, a very inconvenient marriage. Now, Anne Gracie has written this as a part of a series called the Marriage of Convenience series. There's Marry in Haste, Marry in Scandal, Marry in Secret. She's also written the Chance Sisters, which has the Autumn Bride, the Winter Bride, the Spring Bride, the Summer Bride. She's got a lot of books here. She's written, at least 20 romance books. There's also the Merridew Sisters and the Devil Riders, which have about 4 or 5 books in their series. A lot of praise for Anne Gracie. So I think if you like a bit of romance of that really strong genre, why not run out, go to your bookstore, maybe order online, you know, from your local bookstore. You might have heard me mention before that I was at the library. So I got all of my 3 books at my local library. So what does that mean for the writer? Well, I don't know an awful lot. I think it's public lending rights, and I've been trying to get my head around it. And I think what happens is it's the author doesn't get money from the library itself. The library buys the book from the publisher, and I feel like it's something like 50 cents a book, but I could be completely wrong about that. If you have any further information, if you're a librarian, I'd love to hear your comments. So that is A Love and Death by Heather Taylor-Johns, Ghost Wife by Michelle Dickonowski, and Marry in Secret by Anne Gracie. Don't forget to like and subscribe and to comment. And I just managed to salvage a little bit more of the video from the wedding to talk about what you can get as a writer for 50 cents a book. I'll see you next time. What does that get you? 50 cents, not a lot, so might as well have a bit of